The LSAT is going digital later this year. June will be the last paper and pencil version of the LSAT. The only thing different about June is that you'll be doing the writing sample separately from home on your own time. You won't be doing the writing sample at the test center. You'll be typing it on your computer. Starting in July, half of test takers will get the digital version of the LSAT on a tablet. The other half will get the LSAT on the traditional paper and pencil format. LSAC is doing this as some kind of study or experiment in order to see, how people do relative on one versus the other, but they're still going full force on the digital this fall, no matter what. So that's just something to be aware of. It is what it is. If you're taking in June, you've got 2 months left. You're doing the paper. You're taking in July, you might get either one. Then in September, you're definitely getting the digital. Now, the digital specifically is a tablet, not a computer. It will specifically be a Microsoft Surface Go tablet. Now, you don't need to have that tablet specifically in order to study, though. I think any tablet would work well. Maybe a Samsung Galaxy tablet, which is just a couple $100. If you already have an iPad, that could be good. If you have a really, really large smartphone like a Google Pixel, that could work, but I'd still recommend a tablet. One other thing you're going to want is a stylus, because on the digital LSAT at the test center, you're going to be using a stylus. You won't just be using your finger or something like that. So again, practice like it's going to be on game day. Now, you might be used to, on your own studying, drawing freehand on the page the way that you would in like a book, of course, because that's what you're using paper. Or if you're using a PDF, then that might be a bit better, assuming that you've been doing your work separately on the side on scrap paper. So that's something to be thinking about. One thing I wanted to show you specifically, though, is what the LSAT actually looks like in the digital format. So why don't we take a look at that? I'll pull it up for us on the screen so you can see exactly what it looks like. Let's just make sure I have nothing embarrassing here first. All right, so it looks like we've got the digital LSAT up here. And so you've got these tutorials, you've got actual LSAT questions. I'll just walk through the tutorial for now so you can see what the digital LSAT looks like. So you can see here, there is a countdown timer. There are some features here we'll get into. They're just kind of explaining them here. We go into the questions. You can see that we can underline things. We can underline over here as well. We can highlight things. We can even highlight in different colors. And we can also erase what we've highlighted. We can erase what we've underlined. Now, you'll notice here that there is no actual function for drawing freehand on the screen the way that you might draw on a piece of paper. That does not exist. These letters here are just to enlarge the text or make the text smaller. Then this is also to increase the spacing, although I don't really know why you'd want to do that. Maybe if you have eyesight issues or you just find it helpful, why not? Sure. There's the countdown timer that exists. There's this brightness feature, but it doesn't work on the desktop version of this. It may work on the mobile, of course, though. So that's something to play around with, but you'll see there is no option to draw freehand. I'm moving my mouse around here and trying to click. Nothing is happening. One cool thing, though, is that you can flag questions. You can select, and you see when I select B over here, it comes up down there at the bottom that I've completed that. If I want to erase or eliminate an answer choice over here, it'll eliminate it on the screen as well. And you can click through to see that the other questions look kind of similar, even if they do get longer with more text. You do have to scroll down there. So that's something good to be aware of and something good to notice, of course. Now, the countdown timer, I don't love it. At the it's a 35-minute countdown, of course, because you have 35 minutes per section. Once the 5-minute warning hits, you cannot remove the countdown timer. You see I'm clicking it, it's not going away. When you're doing from the full section 35 minutes, you can remove it. So that is something to be aware of. Now, once again, you can't draw freehand the way you would on, let's say, a whiteboard. So if I were to show you a whiteboard here, you see that I can draw with the pen as much as I want to. And I could, of course, change colors if I wanted to as well, at least on my whiteboard. But LSAC doesn't let you do that. So let's say you were doing a logic game or something with slots, just to do this kind of silly sketching here with my mouse. That's what it might look like. But on the tablet digital LSAT, you're not going to be able to do that. So again, just be aware of that. It will be a different experience. That's why I recommend actually getting a tablet to practice on and using LSAC's website at familiar.lsac.org, which I'm putting in the chat here for you all. For those of you on Facebook, please come over to Zoom to find all the links I'm going to be sharing here. So that's the digital LSAT in a nutshell. Those of you taking in July, half get the digital, half get the paper. LSAT chooses for you. And once again, you get no advance notice. If you're taking the LSAT in the fall, it will be definitely digital, 100% guaranteed. Now, a few things I could mention in particular for those of you taking the LSAT in July. If you're taking the LSAT in July, you will get the option to see your score before you decide whether to cancel or not. I think that's not a big deal because cancellations are not a big deal. It does not really ever make sense to cancel your LSAT score because law schools do not average multiple LSAT scores. They only take the highest. And so for that reason, there's never really a downside to leaving what could be a low score on your record. Now, for the July LSAT in particular, you do get to see your score first before canceling as a kind of like a one-time freebie. So if you got that, let's say you really were scoring around a 160 on every practice test and you were hoping for higher, but you would be happy with a 160, and then it turns out you get a 157 on test day. Should you cancel with the 157 knowing that it would be on your record? My inclination would actually be keep the 157, don't cancel, even if you wouldn't want to apply to law school with the 157, because a cancellation is a big question mark. It's ambiguous. And so for all law schools know, you might have really gotten a 140 and you wouldn't want to have a 140 on record, presumably. And so I think having the 157, even if it's lower than you want it to be, it's not terrible. It is above average, is above the median. So for that reason, I would suggest keeping the 157.